Hey, Foot Clan, we did it. We did it. We have made it through the fantasy season. Well, most of us. Some of us play to week 17. However, if you took home a hashtag Foot Clan title, you head over to shopballers.com right now. Get yourself some swag, and you know what? We're hooking you up with a coupon code Foot Clan title. Save 20%. Get that shirt. Let everyone know that you are a champion for the Foot Clan.
To the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome. Woo. We made it. We're back. My house is full of toys. So many toys.
There are many toys.
I told my wife this is the best Christmas ever because they're never getting that much stuff again.
What's so
Holy
funny
guacamole
about that is my wife had said, this is year. Okay, we're going to pull back on the amount of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I don't think my children have ever received so many gifts.
The best gift that we had was my wife bought our daughter, and we bought our daughter,
right.
But she bought it, right? A dollhouse, and she wanted to put it together a couple days before Christmas in the garage because it might take a while. You know, lots of stories of parents taking 4 or 5 hours to put stuff together on Christmas.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, just do it the night before. It'll be easy. Like, I'm thinking this dollhouse is a dollhouse. This is like a house. She gets done with it. I go in the garage. My daughter can't outreach the top floor. That's how tall this is.
Oh, man.
She's, a 2-year-old. She cannot reach it without a step stool. This is the biggest dollhouse. I slept there last night in the dollhouse. That's how big it was.
We had a situation where my oldest son found his way into my locked office on Christmas Eve and discovered there was some things
unwrapped.
There were some things unwrapped.
Oh no!
So there was quite the conversation with him.
Wow.
Did he get a pot of coal?
Well,
is that a thing?
I mean, he was very upset. He was very concerned that he was going to end up on the naughty list because of this.
Yeah.
But everything is okay.
Pretty naughty.
Everything is okay.
Jason has no stories from Christmas.
Look,
we skipped it.
My Christmas just went swimmingly. The kids were happy. Everything was good, other than when my youngest opened up a letter puzzle to help him learn. And he opens it and goes, "Oh, man!" He's like, "Yep, sorry."
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But we got my youngest a letter puzzle as well. He was very excited.
Yeah, well, your son's smarter than mine.
Did you see a friend of ours gave his sons both iPads, but they were like iPads from CVS, the pharmacy.
Oh.
He videotaped
like cover
it.
your eyes?
Yeah, they were like for people who have injured their eye.
Oh,
they were
come on.
EYE pads.
No, right.
Yeah, it was great video. All right, welcome to the show. Yeah, I know. We talk Christmas, and hopefully you had a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody out there still celebrating. My son went to bed crying because he didn't want Christmas to be over. That's how and it's a great day, though. Great day with family and football. So many things to dive into today. Obviously, a lot of Foot Clan titles were won yesterday. Crazy games, big games by a lot of players. Expectations met for many, some not so much. We also had a ton of injuries. Today we've got all the studs. We've got all the duds. We've got injury reports, and we'll tell you about everything that happened. We have some good stories from the Foot Clan. It just goes on and on.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here, and I struggle to know where to begin. So here's a story for you. This is crazy. Team 1 is in the championship. This came in this morning. They had all positions done on Saturday and ended with 115.7 points. Team 2 was only down 1.8 points and had 2 players left. Sorry, down 1.6 points. You know what 2 players they had left?
Oh, no.
Jeremy Hill.
Oh, no.
Broncos D.
Oh, man.
Lost the championship.
You needed 1.6, and Jeremy Hill
got 0.9.
Who was averaging like 23 touches a game or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
Got 0.9. And then the Broncos D was -4 in their format.
Goodness.
So
Congratulations
To the other team.
The other team. Wow.
Yeah, this was just a story. It didn't involve him. He said it was his league. Jason?
That's rough.
Jason, the week of you feeding me horrible stuff for lunch is over.
Oh.
And I've gotten this week off to a good start with the top 15 Hunter Henry bet.
Oh, yeah.
How did he finish? Was he in the top 15?
Just
Top 15,000?
Just outside the top 15,000. So there's that.
Just outside the top 15,000.
Oh, man.
Mike mentioned the shopballers.com coupon code FootClan title. It's 20% off over there if you want to grab a shirt.
Lasts for a week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
And we still got a game tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's even if you're not a Week 17 player, there's a lot of people waiting on who's going to win your championship based on tonight's action. So that's great. Also, great news for the Foot Clan listeners.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so bitter.
I know, but all spots in next year's Listener League shall be open for you to play in because we took out the listeners this year, and by we, I mean I. Also,
Should have been me.
the three of us play in 3 leagues together, which I see those as my main 3 leagues because we're in those.
Right.
And a few weeks ago, I thought, man, I lost all my champ gonna champ rhetoric.
But not.
But no, because champ's gonna champ.
Yeah. And I think I outscored you by 35 points this week, and I missed the championship game by 2 points last week, thanks to Ajayi, who twisted the knife this week with his 200-yard performance.
Oh, fantasy football.
Here's a quick question of the day, guys. Raz in Israel writes in. He says he's winning by 0.3 points. With only Dez left in his lineup, his opponent is done. Do I play Dez and risk the negative points or sit him and risk stat correction?
You're under a point. You got to play him.
Yeah,
Yes,
you do.
You have to. I
The
know
odds
that,
of stat correction are higher than Dez scoring you negative points.
I know that Dez is probably the only wide receiver of note to actually finish with a negative game this year, but it's not happening again.
No, it's not. So
You got to play him.
the Lions and Cowboys tonight. We'll catch up on any new news and information about that game. You can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. The website is thefantasyfootballers.com. We're jumping into the rewind.
Weekly Rewind.
Now, look, it was a busy week. It was a very busy week. Lots happening, lots going on, to the point where I forgot who our streamers were.
Oh,
Our
yes.
quarterback stream. Last week we came on and we said the quarterback streamers were very difficult for the final week because we try to choose a streaming quarterback that is owned in less than 60% of leagues. And at this point in the season, people stocking up for the playoffs, there weren't a lot of options.
Got to dig deep.
So I didn't even remember that my streamer was Tyrod Taylor, who was the number 3 quarterback. Jason, you had
Bortles.
Blake Bortles.
He put his faith in Bortles.
Yeah, I
who
did.
was outstanding.
It's crazy, man. Tennessee's not a good secondary.
He was incredible. And then Mike had Colin Kaepernick.
I think all 3 top 9, right?
I had the least amount of confidence in our streams ever this past week, and we ended up, 3, 5, and 7? Is that what you said?
So far. So
7
far.
and 9. Yeah,
That was a good
I
week.
think that
Good
was
week.
right.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Good week.
We ended up far better than Derek Carr at the end of that week.
We'll start there. All right. So
Derek
Derek Carr,
Marcus Mariota.
both of them, broken fibula. Mariota has the broken right fibula and ankle. I believe Carr was in surgery yesterday. Both these guys, super disappointing. Derek Carr, that story for the Raiders, they're done.
Yep. Well, I mean, you got
McCoy.
We got Matt McGloin. No, this is,
it's brutal.
it's brutal. I mean, you look at if we want to muse for just a second on the NFL playoffs, to me, there are only 3 teams in the AFC that have any chance of getting to the Super Bowl. Number 1 far and away is the Patriots.
Yeah.
And then it's Pittsburgh and it's Kansas City.
Yeah.
You take McGloin out of it, the
Right.
Raiders. You take Houston out of it.
Because
I don't think they have a shot. What's the last playoff team there? Miami?
Miami.
Yeah, whatever. And then, on the other side, I don't know how you'd handicap it.
Wow,
You've got
all three of those final playoff teams you just mentioned have made a quarterback change at the very end of the season.
Yeah, Matt Moore, McGloin, and
Savage.
So those are not 3 championship contenders to me. On the other side, it's a little more open in the NFC. I think you have, obviously, the Dallas and Atlanta. Those are my 2 favorites. You have Seattle. They have some holes, but they're Seattle. Cardinals did their best to make it annoying for them this year.
Yeah,
sticking them on the road. Yeah, take that draft position, Cardinals. And then you have the Giants and probably the Packers.
Yes,
so
most likely.
A few more in contention, I think, on that side. But going to be very interesting. Obviously, we'll be here throughout the playoffs. We'll do some playoff challenge. We'll play with you guys, play some games. It's fun. All right, let's get to the injuries. We got Carr and Mariota.
Moving forward, Derek Carr's injury. I mean, if that's the injury you're going to get to your leg, he'll be fine.
I had that injury. I broke my fibula.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you're
fine. You get better.
Yeah. Well, after a
couple
weeks, we've talked about it's not the weight-bearing bone
right.
of your leg. Marcus Mariota's with the broken ankle. That's far more serious to me. We'll see how much damage he had. We had Thomas Rawls last year, late in the season, broke his ankle. Wasn't even ready to go week 1. So
yeah,
hopefully Mariota's ready.
In addition to the actual injury, there's the play style that is even less conducive. Marcus Mariota running around, going on rollouts, being a mobile quarterback. Derek Carr pretty much stays in that pocket.
Yeah. Just brutal.
It was. You also had injuries to RG3, a concussion. Carlos Hyde, we just heard, tore his MCL.
Oh, man.
That looked bad.
He'll miss the last game of the year. You had some players getting banged up. You had Thomas Rawls with a shoulder injury and cost him the entire second half, which was devastating for fantasy owners. Poor Tyler Lockett finally got back into great condition. Now severe leg and ankle injury.
Don't
Google it. Yeah.
Oh man, if you've ever seen Anderson Silva,
it was floppy.
It was no good.
Oh yeah, football.
It's like we joke sometimes of like, oh, this guy needs to get injured because it helps my fantasy. That was one where it's like, no. Like I just felt so bad for the guy.
Moncrief, shoulder injury.
Come on, Moncrief, man.
Kenny Brett, shoulder injury. Cameron Brate, back injury.
Oh, you skipped over Jay Ajayi's because you could have kept with the shoulder injury.
He went back in.
Yeah, Jay Ajayi, when you run for 200, I save you to the end.
It was similar to what we saw Lamar Miller have a big week last week. At the very end of the game, get injured, and then he missed the game. Granted, Ajayi came back in, but that was right at the end of the game, and I remember kind of putting that in my mental notepad of just let's see, because they've got the playoffs locked up.
To your credit, Ajayi said, "I remember these guys," and did the same darn thing to them again.
Yeah, the Bills gave up 200 yards twice.
The Bills couldn't tackle. That Devontae Parker touchdown
was so stupid.
It didn't make sense.
No.
It was like an optical illusion.
Yeah, because you had 2 guys tackle Devontae Parker with no arms.
Is that who I said? Devontae Parker?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I said Adams on it.
No, and I feel like Parker, and even Parker thought I was supposed to be tackled. Why
am I still running?
What happened? Oh, okay. I guess I'll run in for a score here.
It's crazy. All right, here's another headline that just blew our minds in the middle of Saturday. Doug Martin, healthy scratch.
Yeah, and we're talking in the middle.
I mean, this was not expected from anybody. And out of the blue, Dirk Cutter said, we have 4 backs. We can't give them all touches. Are you kidding? That's the worst thing I've ever.
That is a brutal remark. Brutal. The guy you just paid. You paid him
That's an attitude
contract.
And it was a healthy scratch. This was not an injury.
Yeah, he wasn't on the injury report at all this week.
And then Jacquizz came in and had himself a pretty solid game.
This sounds like maybe Jacquizz was part of the game plan to begin with, and Martin complained. And then he said, okay, you don't get a play.
Maybe. And so I'm just going to throw out quick story. The pivotal moment in my fantasy season was in the middle. I went all in, trading the future for Doug Martin, for T.Y. Hilton and Doug Martin. If you're a follower of this show, you know that I am not a Doug Martin fan, so to speak. He is who he is.
You're not a preseason believer,
that's
for sure.
No, not at all. And even he started the season okay, but the schedule was so good towards the end. My cautionary tale is this. I went all in on a player that I don't like and I didn't really believe in, and I lost a lot because of that. I mean, I couldn't go in on anybody else. I traded for him, and that sucks so incredibly much to lose with a guy that you don't like.
That's because when you're losing, you're saying to yourself, I knew this.
Yes.
You're saying to yourself, I know he stinks. You're almost cheering along with the fact that he stinks, but he's hurting you.
So it's one of those weird things about fantasy football is you look at a guy, you think, okay, I have this other option. Maybe he's not the right play, but I'm not going to lose with this guy because
Right.
I think he stinks.
Right.
Well, I did that. I went against myself.
Is he your keeper now?
He apparently is.
Oh, great. Wow. Lessons learned.
Just saying. So it's so painful to lose with a guy that you don't want to lose with. So
I'll get you a jersey.
Oh,
Pick
certainly.
you up a Dougie Martin jersey. Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, without further ado.
This week's Fantasy Stud Muffins.
You're not regretting being an Aaron Rodgers owner at this time of year. 4 touchdowns, throwing laser beams. Really a great performance from Rodgers. 4 touchdowns, 347 through the air. Just ran one in just for fun.
We didn't talk about it because I guess it's not really fantasy news. But you read the Vikings DB story, right?
Yeah, that's just sad.
It's the weirdest story.
It's kind of gone back and forth a little, too.
Well, it's not. Things don't add up anywhere. If you haven't heard what happened was allegedly Mike Zimmer, the game plan that he installed was Xavier Rhodes will shadow Jordy Nelson no matter what.
Seems like a good plan.
Now, where it gets a little bit weird is because Randall Cobb was out, Jordy Nelson operated out of the slot a good bit. Rhodes doesn't generally go into the slot anyways. But so regardless of that, Zimmer said, okay, Rhodes, you're going to shadow him. And the team, the DBs got together and said, nah, we're not going to do that. And so Zimmer is basically saying this is what happened. How do you not bench the second?
Newman.
How do you not bench Newman? How do you not bench Rhodes? And you say to them, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm the coach. You will follow the game plan. But he's doing the cake and eat it too thing.
I saw a comment that said Bill Belichick would immediately trade them to the Browns.
Yes, Bill Belichick would.
Yeah, that's an embarrassing thing, and that makes you wonder about Zimmer's
Is
control of that team.
So weird. So
Yeah.
weird.
And then Xavier Rhodes shadowed him in the second half and kept him
And Jordy Nelson got shut down.
2 catches. 2 catches.
It's just so bizarre.
It's one of the reasons that we were I think we brought up Xavier Rhodes earlier in the week and saying, is he going to be shadowing Jordy Nelson? Because if so, Adams could be in a good position. Russell Wilson, 29 for 45, 350 and 4.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Almost all of that came second half. Cardinals were crushing them, but you're not going to have a
I wanted
blowout.
that game to end in a tie so badly for the second time this year.
Yeah, some people think that Chandler Catanzaro at the very end of that game, winning it with a kick, got back on my good list. And you got to understand, we wouldn't have been in that position if he didn't miss a kick earlier that game. So, no.
He also stared down the Seahawks.
Well, that's
it was a pretty boss kick. I mean,
It wasn't.
when you have no timeouts, it's 4th down, and you just have to run on, and your entire job is as a kicker. It's rhythm, it's setting your nerves, and you just have to run out and kick it.
That's why he made it.
I was going
He
to say,
didn't have
maybe
to set his nerves.
maybe that's the key. Every time that they're
just
going to
run him out.
they wait for they're going to wait until the game clock or the play clock is at 17 and then go, okay, go.
Tyrod Taylor, we talked about it. Is that right? 36 for 39?
Wait, what?
That can't be right. There's
I know,
no way that's right.
But he did have the over 300 yards in the
36 for 39?
That would be pretty good.
Someone vet that while I talk about this game.
I'll check
Okay.
into it.
36 for 39 is what I'm reading, but 329 and 3, 12 for 60 on the ground in a game against Miami that they ended up losing in overtime. I thought they were going to come away with that win.
It certainly is not correct. I'm sure the 36 is.
It's like 26.
26-39.
Yeah, that
there we
makes
go.
way more sense.
Brooks.
Sam Bradford had a game, 382 and 3. Kirk Cousins doing the damage. Would you have won your dynasty title game if you had put Cousins in over Winston?
No.
Okay.
There was, I think, a few moves I could have made, but just not obvious ones, like put Brandon LaFell in.
Yeah.
That Washington game, man, super frustrating for Robert Kelly owners. As I played Robert Kelly, I thought the matchup was great. And you know what? The matchup was spectacular. Chris Thompson with the dose touchdowns and freaking Kirk Cousins running in 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, 4 rushing touchdowns for Washington, and there's no Robert Kellys.
I mean, it's brutal. That is, he did get dinged up. Robert Kelly did, and it looked a little rough there. He got back in the game, so maybe that affected it.
He missed a good chunk of action too.
But I'm saying, well, even after he got in, then it was you felt okay. Here comes Kelly, and Cousins ran it in.
You had Bradford, we said, Kaepernick, Luck, Bortles, and then Derek Carr before the injury took care of business, 228-3. Tom Brady, efficient, 214-3. And then Big Ben, he was destroying people until the end of that game.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the people in my championship lineup, and I conceded towards the end of that game because I thought,
well, you pulled the Andy Holloway,
right.
Which, if you're not familiar with the Andy Holloway, the Andy Holloway is you concede a loss despite the fact that your team looks like they're on track to win,
right,
and then that
you get a groundswell of momentum.
Yes, the concession.
It worked, man.
Is this karma that turns your team
late in that game? Right after that, Big Ben throws 2 touchdowns, and I scamper on.
We're going to take a quick break and thank today's sponsor, PristineAuction.com. Great friends of the show. One of the neat things about Christmas morning and our Twitter at the FF Ballers is we had literally tens of people sending pictures of gifts they bought for people. I remember one girl got a signed Antonio Brown framed picture, and she said that her friend who she bought it for was crying when she opened it up.
Yeah.
She was so excited.
You won Christmas.
It was awesome. So, and if you wanted a little extra something, check out Pristine Auction today. They got a signed Tom Brady jersey on there, Jerry Rice, full size, authentic helmet on there, 3-time Super Bowl champ inscription.
We know that Jason is scouring Pristine Auction for a signed Charles Clay jersey.
Yep, we're gonna have to get that on there.
You gonna write Foot Clan title on there too, because he brought one home for you.
Hopped on his back
and rode Charles Clay. Yeah, not many have done that, so that's impressive. But look, you can find hundreds of daily auctions. It would take us all day to read through every one of them. And then they change tomorrow. So it's awesome. Check it out, PristineAuction.com, PRISTINE, auction.com.
Let them know that the Fantasy Footballers sent you when you make your completely free account.
Also, we want to thank today's sponsor, SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the best and the only place to go for tickets. We've talked about them.
Playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to real NFL games. Your fantasy season might be over with a victory or with a loss, but now your team might be in the playoffs, and you got to get to those games, and maybe the tickets are sold out.
Real games.
The real games. You use SeatGeek. It is the best. It is so easy to find tickets there because they give you color-coded grids. When you download the free SeatGeek app, you can zoom in, pick your exact seats out the way you can't do on every other site. It's really good. They pull in tickets from hundreds of different providers, so you know you're getting a good price. And if you haven't used SeatGeek yet, they are going to give you $20 back after you buy your first tickets. That'll help you go down, get some hot dogs, get some snacks at the game. So download the free SeatGeek app, go to the settings tab, and click add the promo code. The promo code is FOOTBALLERS, and then SeatGeek will send you $20 after you made your first ticket purchase. Download the free SeatGeek app and enter promo code FOOTBALLERS today.
Moving on in the stud muffins, we're talking running backs, and I'll tell you right now, if the Cardinals were a winning franchise,
MVP.
You think he'd be the MVP?
No, he'd at least be talked about.
That's what I'm bringing up. We're talking about
David Johnson.
David Johnson. I missed out on that. I was distracted. I was thinking of the fact that the only other guy to ever have 15 all-purpose, 15 games with over 100 all-purpose yards was consecutively. No. I think in a season.
Oh no, he just tied it.
Yeah, it was.
He's the only person that's done it, but the only other guy that's ever done it got an MVP that year in Barry Sanders in 1999.
One game left, too. 95 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 4 for 41 through the air. David Johnson.
He's pretty good.
He said,
I remember early in the season arguing with someone on Twitter because they said it was just situational, and he's not really that talented.
Yeah,
and
20 touchdowns later.
Yeah.
20 touchdowns on the year for David Johnson. He's rewarding you in your fantasy playoffs, not just in the beginning of the season when you drafted him. It's been consistent.
It's been every week.
Yeah, and the same can be said about Le'Veon Bell, who he came on second half of that game, 122 on the ground and a touchdown, 3 for 15 and 1. Those are your top 2 of maybe the top 3 picks next year. I would expect David Johnson, Lev Bell, and Ezekiel Elliott to be heavily discussed, maybe league format determining which guy goes where. Another, a big guy. I almost made him my start of the week. I was so close, but I was so afraid. I was so afraid of Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
But I loved it. And he went 18 for 90 and 2. Big game for Mark Ingram, rewarding you if you started him this week. Ajayi, we talked about it, 206 yards and a touchdown. They just kept handing him the ball.
Is Ajayi, is he a running back 1 next year?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't think so.
I mean, where do you think he's going to get drafted?
He might be drafted as one.
Yeah. I think he'll get drafted in the second or
third round.
But Kenyon Drake looked great in that game. You've seen what that coaching staff has done, trying to bring in C.J. Anderson and Matt Forte and trying to do different things.
They tried, and then Ajayi said, I'm going to have 3 200-plus games.
The 5 games before this, he had no game over 87 yards. He's inconsistent.
Yeah, it's
But
hard
yes,
to
he'll be drafted as a 1.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to trust him. Here's another guy, what do you do? How do you trust? Which is DeAndre Washington had a great game. We loved him early in the season. He was my favorite handcuff to have. And then he was healthy scratched, and Jalen Richard was taking over. Now we come into this game, and you got him running 12 times, which is a good number for that type of back. 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nobody played him. But are you picking him up? Is he now the back?
No. I mean, that's a good question. To me, this was hot hand, right? He had 2 22-yard touchdowns. He probably accumulated carries with the hot hand approach. Latavius Murray, by the way. We'll talk about him. Yeah.
The Raiders.
Richard scored in this game was my point. I mean, Richard was in there. He scored.
The Raiders have gone full Cerebrus. They are the 3-headed dog. That's what they will be. We had a portion of time there where Latavius Murray was the guy, and quickly, apparently I said that Thor was a Greek mythological god, and that was
Norse.
Yes, I mean, I don't even know how we didn't catch it. Clearly, he is not from the Greek mythology, and that was a gross. Did you make the
the 3-headed dog went right into the mythology? Is that how that came back to mind?
That's how it reminded me of it.
Okay.
Well, I'm embarrassed.
Well, you should
be.
Say
something
Knowledge
like
is power. That's what you said.
You saw basically Latavius Murray still lead in touches. He got 15 touches, so he had all the opportunity, even more so than DeAndre Washington. DeAndre Washington with 12. Jalen Richard got 6. So take it for what you want.
Take it for what you want. No, I mean,
analysis.
I think that backs up the kind of hot hand approach with DeAndre Washington. Shady was my number 1 back on the week. He had a good game
every week. LeSean McCoy is just fantastic.
I think he was one of our wins this year, where we really pushed Shady early in the season when he was going more second round.
He was a third, fourth round guy.
Yeah.
Made no sense.
And he's coming off the injury-plagued year. People were disappointed in that offense and that team. Tevin Coleman had a good game.
Because he was on the road.
Yeah, talk about that. That's just a crazy, crazy stat you found.
This was from Evan Silva, but he had tweeted out, I'm trying to remember the exact numbers, but it was something like 10 of 12 of Freeman's touchdowns were at home. Meanwhile, 9 of 11 of Coleman's touchdowns were on the road. It was just this weird, fluky, anomalous thing. And then Tevin Coleman
adds a touchdown on the road.
And his was similar to Parker, where the tackling was just horrifying, and even Coleman could not believe that he was running it in for a touchdown. Jason was screaming at the screen, saying, "Break it, go!" Being facetious.
I was playing against Matt Ryan, so I just every time they handed the ball off, I'm like, "Take it to the house," and he did. He listened. It was very nice.
LeGarrette Blount, start of the week, got a couple more touchdowns to add to his stat line this year. Chris Ivory had an okay game. Isaiah Crowell. Todd Gurley, another start of the week, scored. Still couldn't put together more than 3 yards of carry.
What do you do with Todd Gurley?
87 total yards and a touchdown you're happy with, but 67 yards on the ground with 23 carries against San Francisco.
I think I'm going to be close to clean slating him next year. Depending on personnel moves and changes.
This week
for
would
that
have
team.
helped me.
Yeah.
But
are we being
everybody destroys the San Francisco 49ers.
Here's the reality.
I don't know.
Because, Trent Richardson came in. He's supposed to be the best back of all time. Rookie year, he has double-digit touchdowns, and he's the number one drafted guy the following year, and he fizzles out, and he was gone.
His rookie
It was anomalous, right?
Was, at least for fantasy, was all touchdown. Gurley was making things happen.
Gurley was getting the yards done. But when I watched
the game, he's pressing now.
He doesn't look like it's. Sometimes you watch a runner and you go, their offensive line is stinking, but he looks good every time he gets in space. He looks good. I don't see that right now with Todd Gurley. When I watch him, I think, why? Like, he doesn't deserve to get the ball 26 times.
Yeah, and we talked about it. I mean, he finally broke a 20-yard run, but he hadn't done it all year long. David Johnson's offensive line is stinky.
Terrible.
I mean, there's major injuries on the Cardinals' offensive line. He makes something happen. Gurley's not making those special plays happen right now. And I don't know if he's pressing. I don't know if it's the frustrations of this season. It's a good question. And I said I clean slate him, but that would be foolish. That would be foolish because you'd be buying into that first-year name and the pedigree, and you never know with these guys. So I think you need to see what happens to that offensive line in the offseason. See what happens at the quarterback position.
At the coach.
At the coaching, yeah.
But let's say, so right now, the over-early analysis, if you're in the second round, would you be okay taking Todd Gurley?
I probably would, but you got to put some names out there for me to decide between.
Ajayi.
That's a great one.
Yeah, I'd take Gurley. Because I know he's going to get 23 again.
I would take Ajayi.
Wow. I would take Gurley there because what Andy was alluding to. Next year, Todd Gurley's going to get 16 games of opportunity where he's touching the ball.
Yeah, Ajayi next year will have, or at least entering the year, will have a fully healthy offensive line. And when Ajayi had that healthy Miami line, they're good.
All right, guys, we're moving on to the wide receiver position, and we'll just start it like this.
Hooked on a Thielen.
Man.
Are you in love with him?
Hooked on a Thielen.
Adam Thielen is turning into everything that we had hoped Stephon Diggs could be.
Well, really?
I think so.
That's a strong statement.
Well,
I just think he had a great game. 12 for 202 and 2. Diggs has been hurt. Diggs had been the PPR machine before he got hurt. They're different players. I mean, Thielen's he's a taller guy. He can go up and make a tough catch, sideline catches, end zone threat. Really impressive game. I mean, Mike talked about him earlier in the week.
Adam Thielen was almost the greatest call of all time.
You backed
off a little bit.
Well, yeah, it was if Stephon Diggs is out, you were hooked on a Thielen.
Yes.
But then Stephon Diggs was in, and it was like, darn it!
Yeah,
you were still hooked.
The matchup was still incredible because the Packers DBs have been awful.
Jordy Nelson, 9 for 154 and 2. He's right there with Thielen on a fabulous week. He has Detroit next week. We talked about the Xavier Rhodes situation, but Jordy Nelson, he's one of my mistakes of the year because I think I pumped the brakes on him. He had 2 down games and then a good game, and then I pumped the brakes on him, and he said,
well, even his good games
Nitro.
At the beginning of the season were not the normal Jordy Nelson.
There was no yardage.
Yeah, but to his credit, he was coming off the ACL. He's a little bit older. Maybe the healing process just, it took some time. And now Jordy's looking fantastic. I mean, he's making all of his normal Jordy Nelson moves.
You had some of the big names that you hoped performed for you. Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., Mike Evans taking care of business. Huge game from Doug Baldwin. And by the way, Mike Evans coming through. Thank goodness, because he hadn't been there for a couple playoff weeks.
Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin stole a championship from me.
I will say, I'll say this about Doug Baldwin.
13, 171, and 1.
Most of the game, it was one of those Brandon Williams, the rookie cornerback for the Arizona Cardinals, was just getting torched left, right, and center. I mean, really right, because that's where he is. But but he was just, he is terrible. And then And then towards the end of the game, after Doug Baldwin was, humiliating him, the last one was Patrick Peterson, and Patrick Peterson he fell asleep at the wheel, and Doug Baldwin went off 171 yards.
If you're playing next week, I mean, you have a situation where Tyler Lockett's no longer a part of this offense. And so Doug Baldwin, Jimmy Graham.
Oh, Jimmy Graham, you turd. Oh.
That's why you play Jimmy Graham. Is because not every tight end gives you the chance for a big touchdown over the middle.
Yeah.
Samuel Watkins.
Yeah, monster game. 7 for 154 and 1. You had LaFell with an 80-something yard touchdown turning on the Jets. Cameron Meredith. J.J. Nelson, who we're going to talk about soon. By the way, we got the Rising Stars on the show.
Yeah.
Momentarily. So we'll talk about those guys. Steve Smith. Mike.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
Mike.
I said I was okay playing him, but this was I thought Steve Smith was fading off there at the end of a long season, but he had himself a spectacular game. 7 for 79 and a touchdown.
Oh man, it was hard listening to that. I started Larry Fitzgerald over Steve Smith, and I did not enjoy Steve Smith constantly getting it done.
You talk about a week of redemption. You got that a little bit from Mike Evans redeeming himself over the last couple weeks. You got it from Todd Gurley getting you a touchdown, and you got it from Allen Robinson and Blake Bortles, who said, hey, remember us?
You know what we didn't say about Blake Bortles? He caught a touchdown.
Yes, he did.
I mean,
because of course.
That's how ridiculous that game turned out to be.
From Marquise Lee, right?
Yep. Marquise Lee
had a pass.
game.
Who also caught he caught and threw a touchdown.
Yeah.
He's the new quarterback. We talked about Devontae Parker had a good game. Shepard. Tyreek Hill is a lightning bolt.
Oh, man. I pumped the brakes on Tyreek Hill this week because, and I said this is dangerous. Anytime you take it, a guy that could take it to the house, but I was worried against Denver.
The last 2 weeks, Tyreek Hill has 0 catches.
Dude.
2 weeks in a row.
He's a wide receiver with no catches who's torching you because he is so lightning fast.
Is Tyreek Hill what the Rams thought Tavon Austin would be?
Yeah.
Sure. I think Tavon Austin's pretty good, though.
Yeah, but if you put those two guys in pads and you said race, Tyreek Hill is going to torch
And
Tavon
we've never
Austin.
seen Tavon have a string of games like this, like Hill has.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, Tyreek Hill, Mike put it best last night. He said, when you pump the brakes on Tyreek Hill, you're playing with a nuclear device. Sometimes it doesn't go off, but when it goes off, and you don't
destroys.
You don't really miss. I mean, you either miss big or you know. Kelvin Benjamin showed up again. Tyrell Williams had a game. T.Y. Hilton, 4 for 105.
Yep.
Some honorable mentions.
Standard Hilton stuff.
Zeus.
Oh,
there's your Greek guy.
Oh my
man.
goodness.
You can mention it now.
Yeah, Travis Kelce, and coming into the season, I was lukewarm on Kelce because I thought that the offense would never finally accept that we need to over-target Travis Kelce. I loved him 2 years ago. I mean, he was the guy. I was driving the Zeus bus, and he was okay. But for what I was expecting, let me down. Since the Macklin injury, the team has said, well, let's see what happens if we give Travis Kelce double-digit targets pretty much every week. And you know what he does? He comes through with monster production. He carries your team. I quizzed the guys here this morning. I said, who was the leading wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs? The answer was Chris Conley. And I don't remember what was
14 yards was your leading receiver. 14 yards.
Because Travis Kelce was doing so much work. And that touchdown, his long touchdown, I mean, there are very, very few tight ends in the league that can do something like that. Get him the ball.
I was just looking back at my UDK rankings of Kelce.
To your credit, you loved Kelce, and I was on the opposite side because I didn't believe.
Well, you got burned by him last year too.
That Smith would and Coach Reed would actually use him like that.
Their offense. I mean, I think they have a legitimate shot. I think a couple months ago I said Kansas City was my pick for the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. They manufacture offense in the best way that they can. Whether it's Dontari Poe doing a jump pass or Tyreek Hill taking jet sweeps or Travis Kelce being involved or Alex Smith running the ball. They don't care that much about, okay, we got to give 20 carries to Spencer or we have to target Jeremy Maclin 20 times.
Do you think it's possible they cared about that last year? Because they were coming off of the season where there was 0 wide receiver touchdowns. Did that get in their head at all?
I don't know.
And
I don't know.
Well, I'll show you. We can use a wide receiver.
Yeah, a great game for Kelsey. Won a lot of people Foot Clan titles. Charles Clay and Antonio Gates were the other 2 big names. 8 catches apiece. 2 touchdowns for Clay. That's 4 in 3 weeks.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a minute.
Antonio Gates did what Hunter Henry could not and caught the ball 8 times.
Yeah, I mean, against you wanted the tight end that was going to get it done against the Cleveland Browns. It was Antonio.
Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week.
All right, well, it's time. The Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week. Look, I think we are all looking at these with 2 different perspectives. The next week, can you have confidence in playing these guys next week if you're playing in a Week 17 title game, as well as maybe a little bit of long-term discussion on these rising stars. I'm going to kick it off with J.J. Nelson, Arizona Cardinals wide receiver. The last 4 weeks, he's been double digits, 12-21, 12-22 in a half-point league. As I would say, 4 straight weeks of fire because he scored 4 straight weeks. You have a very interesting wide receiver situation in Arizona. I expect Palmer to be back, the offensive line to be improved. Michael Floyd is obviously gone. John Brown hopefully will be back and healthy, but you just don't know with the sickle cell trait and the issues we've had this year. And J.J. Nelson has proven himself to be a very capable wide receiver. Hopefully Larry Fitzgerald's back again. He could retire. You don't know, despite leading the league in reception.
Right.
You don't know. And J.J. Nelson seems to have solidified himself a role in this offense. He's a field stretcher. He can break that long play. You saw he put a move on Richard Sherman in this game that was turned him around, and then he took the ball, 40-something yards. So it was an impressive game from Nelson. I just want him to be on your radar, not just for next week, but for next year. I've been pretty impressed with him.
The Cardinals go 3 wide a lot, and he's the 3rd wide receiver now with Michael Floyd gone. So I love that pick. Is it possible to cue the music at all?
It is not. I'm so sorry.
I was putting you on the spot.
Hooked on a Thielen. There you go, Mike.
As you can see, I did not cue the music.
Thank you, Jason. Adam Thielen, 12 for 202 and 2 touchdowns. And I just wanted to point out, last week he had the big injury. So he ended up with the goose egg because he got just exploded going for what would have been a spectacular catch. However, the week before that, 4 for 101. Adam Thielen is getting far more involved in the offense. He has a lot of variables similar to J.J. Nelson next year. Who's the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings? You guys remember that guy Teddy Bridgewater?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, former first-round pick was the starting quarterback. Quarterback. The starting quarterback for the Vikings coming into the season. Obviously, they had to make the trade for Bradford. So we don't know who the quarterback is going to be. There's a lot of moving pieces here, but I think that Adam Thielen is moving up the charts for Sam Bradford. We'll see if he can do the same thing with Teddy Bridgewater. But if Bradford is the quarterback, this offense is evolving. It's changing. Adrian Peterson will be gone next year. I feel very confident saying that. Their offensive line cannot be rebuilt overnight, especially when you gave up draft picks for Sam Bradford. They're going to have to throw the ball like they have been. And Bradford's completion percentage has been borderline historic. When you look at his completion percentage compared to the rest of the league, it's pretty weird, but it's because of the West Coast offense where Adam Thielen can be a huge part. So just keep your eye on him for next year.
I'm super impressed with Thielen. I think he is a kind of go-to type of receiver. He's super reliable hands, makes tough catches. So
yeah, I agree.
Good call, bro.
Thanks, bro.
My rising stars, I was looking, there's a guy out there that, there's plenty of metrics and reasons to go, oh, he should be more on our radar. But the reason he is my rising star is I just hopped on his back and he took me to a championship.
There's nothing wrong with this.
Charles Clay is a guy that we have to at least pay attention to at the tight end position. Remember last year how Tyrod Taylor started getting it together at the end of the year and was really good for fantasy. From week 10 on last year, he was the number 7 quarterback in fantasy football. Him and Sammy Watkins were getting it going. The offense was moving. Well, we saw that yesterday with Charles Clay and Sammy Watkins and Tyrod Taylor. And this following week, they end the year with the New York Jets, who are being thrown all over. So
they're tossed around.
They are the 25th best team against tight ends. Charles Clay has 3 consecutive games with a touchdown, 2 in this last game. He looks like the number 2 target behind Sammy Watkins, at least yesterday. So with this world of Barfy tight ends, Charles Clay is rising to me.
Charles Clay, if you go back to last year, I mean, he had stretches where
he got
the
paid.
year before,
He got paid,
when he was with Miami. I mean,
he got paid big money.
Finally
big
making
money.
he's like an $80 million contract or something.
All right, those were the Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week. Feed your holiday party, your New Year's party, with a Raising Cane's tailgate this year. Their 24-hour marinated, cooked-to-order chicken fingers will make anyone have a holly jolly New Year's. And while you are there, don't forget to pick up your Raising Cane's gift cards for the perfect gift. I actually received a Raising Cane's gift card this past weekend.
That is quite a good gift.
And then I'm going to give myself the gift of some chicken fingers. So right now you can buy a $25 gift card, get $5 bonus for free. Now that is a Raising Cane's kind of jolly.
What do you guys got any lunch plans today?
I think that's where we're headed.
Yes.
Here, I wanted to take a quick time out. We've got to fly through the poop. All right, we're gonna fly right through it. We're gonna get into the pooped in the big boy pants segment. But I want to tell you guys out there, you've just won your title. You hear us say all the time, we're a year-round show. But what is you need a taste of what that is, okay? And you say to yourself, well, how can you do that? Well, football is great. It's a year-round sport. It really is. Here's a little bit of what you're going to get. When Mike talked about it last week, the footies.
Yeah, the footies.
The award show will be early January, okay? We will have a number of episodes. These are so important. You have to hear these. We'll have episodes, the truth episodes, okay? The truth about fantasy quarterbacks, the truth about tight ends, running backs, every position. We'll tell you the truth about this past year because there are biases that happen with end-of-year performance. There are biases that happen with injury and things like that. You need the truth, and that's going to set the landscape out for you. We'll have a rookie rundown. We'll talk about the fantasy impact of coaching changes. We'll talk about we'll get into mock drafting again, early mock drafts.
Free agency is sooner than you think.
Yeah,
and we'll have a lot of fun doing it as well. That's the cool thing. This is football's fun. Fantasy football is even more fun. And so the off season is a blast, and it helps us. We've had a number of people who struggled for years winning championships, and when they stick with us, they brought it home for the first time this year.
That has been the fun part of this past weekend is getting the emails from somebody. This morning, last year, I was dead last in my league. Started listening to you last year, made it to the title game, lost the title game. Decided I'm going to listen all year long. Tuned in right after the season ended. Wrote names down, made trades, did all of that. Won the first Foot Clan title ever.
Foot Clan title.
So, all right, we'll move on.
Pooped in his big boy pants.
All right, so I was wrong about that Cam Newton guy.
Wow.
Not a good game for Cam Newton.
18 of 43.
There's some type of mental disconnect that happened with him this year. You say he needs wide receivers, so you give him a second-year Devin Funchess and Kelvin Benjamin back. He's got wide receivers. Ted Ginn.
He just needs really fast guys.
I don't know what he needs.
Really, really fast guys.
He needs to kind of right the ship. I mean, disappointing game for them. At the running back position, we've said their names. Thomas Rawls with the injury, 8 for 8, destroyed you. Jeremy Hill, 7 for 8. You heard the injury report early in the week. Obviously, that was an impact here. Rex Burkhead got more carries. Jonathan Stewart, very disappointing. Ty Montgomery didn't do it for you. Latavius Murray, bad game. So, I mean, out of those guys, is there anybody you have confidence in going into next week? Teams that need to win. I mean, Ty Montgomery gets Detroit next week. You'd think he'd be an okay play, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, they're playing for the division.
Exactly.
So there's no rest. I mean, you have which we didn't talk about, but there was a report that the Giants may be resting players next week because they're locked. They're the 5 seed no matter what. So maybe you get half a game from Eli, half a game from Beckham, which is of course why we talk about it's don't play to week 17. If you want to do it, fine, but this is the fire that you play with. That the team that brought you to week 17 may not be your team.
By the way, if you want to make a change for that, because a lot of long-time leagues are the ones that do that, or new leagues that just didn't make that adjustment, the time to make that change is right after the season. Just go to the league, say, hey, we want to do this, take your vote or whatever. Establish it for next year so you don't run into this situation. And, you shouldn't have to be playing with a different team in week 17 than
Agreed.
what got you there the whole year.
I'll tell you the guy on this list that I'm not fading next week, and it'll surprise you guys. It's Latavius Murray. Despite DeAndre Washington having a good game, Latavius Murray was still the lead back. He got 15 carries, and they lost their quarterback. And they're going up against Denver, who just lost their playoff chances. So Denver's going to have a letdown. Do you remember what Latavius Murray did last time they played against Denver? And they just kept running the ball, and their offensive line beat their defensive line. It's not a good run-stopping team. I think Latavius Murray is going to be fine next week.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Well, what do you think about the 2 running backs in Tennessee now that Marcus Mariota is he's gone. He's gone. And you got, Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray both let people down this week. That game script went. I mean, there were people that started that Tennessee defense. A lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's fair. You think that Bortles will have a lot of interceptions except Bortles said, well, now is the time I'm going to play like a number 3 overall pick. Now is the time.
They did that just so that we can be thinking about him in the offseason. Just so we can remember what Allen Robinson can do.
Bortles was playing for his job.
Yeah.
If Bortles came out and just stunk these final 2 weeks, he's done.
Yeah, with the new coach coming in, this isn't the coach who drafted you.
So he's playing for his job. Derrick Henry is you're playing with the fire.
You're playing with the game. You're playing with the game script there.
Yeah,
though. You expected Tennessee to be out ahead.
He played 23% of snaps last week when he had his big game. His big game was because he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I like Derrick Henry, but he's not going to get on the field because DeMarco Murray has been so incredible this year.
All right, let's talk about wide receivers that let you down. Jordan Matthews, Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah.
Taylor Gabriel gave you the example of the opposite of Tyreek Hill where he limited touches and he didn't score, and that's all it takes. You don't get PPR baseline with Taylor Gabriel. The 2 wide receivers for Denver.
Crazy.
Did you see the completion percentage for Simeon?
Yeah, it was
atrocious.
Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, if you combined their stats, they would have been on this list. They would have been 4 for 46 and no touchdowns combined.
Oh,
it does put a little bit of a worry into you as an owner of these guys for them figuring out this quarterback situation. A report came out last week saying, they have confidence now and Simeon is this future quarterback. How in the world do you have that after last night? I mean, it was.
I was going to say, when you're watching the national broadcast and then they do the side-by-side shot of your quarterback and your backup quarterback standing on the sideline, that's never, ever a good sign.
Things aren't going good.
I mean, listen, Demaryius Thomas had 8 targets. Emmanuel Sanders had 3. They only had 4 total catches.
Yeah.
I mean, Simeon was 17 for 43.
Oh.
That's a 39% passing.
I mean, that's
completion
Cam
percentage.
Newton numbers. Am I right?
Yeah, you are right. I had moved those 2 guys down in my rankings, but I never thought we would see anything this bad.
That bad. Malcolm
That's
Mitchell
exactly
was
Cam Newton's numbers, by the way.
Malcolm Mitchell, I know, right? Malcolm Mitchell was very disappointing.
Yep.
We disagreed on him, and you were right. I will say this.
You lost that bet, too.
Yes, I did.
He's not going to be in the
And
top 30.
Thankfully, none of these
Why
were
didn't I
for
make these lunch bets? I
Because-
swept them.
Yes, yes, sorry, bro.
We need to build in the sweeping of bets as the lunch bet.
I
if
like
you
that.
make 2 or more bets and you
2017?
sweep them,
I
let's
like
do it retroactive. actually.
Ratified. Oh, you can't, not retro. But I've ratified this.
If you watch the game, Malcolm Mitchell, he got enough targets, I think, as far as the type of targets. He had 2 really deep downfield targets that were just Tom Brady missed them a little bit. He was close to having a good game, but when you end with 3 for 29, he pooped your team, and you're very disappointed.
A lot of regret out there for people trusting that Houston offense and DeAndre Hopkins last week. Larry Fitzgerald.
I apologize. I really thought that Hopkins would be able to get it going.
Only 6 targets after 17 last week. Larry Fitzgerald let people down the last couple weeks of the season. You don't get extra points for very difficult catches. Otherwise, he would have been in good shape. But some disappointing performances. Dontrell Inman was targeted 10 times, but only had 3 catches on those 10 targets. You know, it looked like he was in line for that 5-6 reception game that he's been doing, but didn't come to fruition. And then, Julio Jones, probably not what you wanted. 4 for 60 on 7 targets.
No, it's definitely not what you wanted.
So at the tight end, Zach Ertz let you down. That's probably the biggest name worth speaking of.
You know what we didn't really
and then
mention
Hunter Henry
was a congratulations to the city of Cleveland.
Oh my goodness! What a Christmas! They had a trifecta. They had a trifecta of
My heart will go on. Did you see that?
Yeah, I retweeted that one out. That was a spectacular.
That's
ad.
good. I mean, you win your game, so you're not winless. That's great. But oh no, when you did that, you lost the first pick in the draft. Oh, San Francisco won. We're back to having the first pick in the draft, and we got rid of Robert Griffin. That was so good. All 3 of those things.
If we want to muse for just a moment, I'm curious, and I guess where Mike stands, but I'm not sure where Jason stands. At this time of year, you have this discussion on what's best for your team, right? You losing a game, getting you a better draft pick versus winning a game. It is not as simple as it seems, because I know Mike would just be like,
yeah, we're referring specifically to the Browns, where they were winless. Would you rather take a winless season on your record
and guarantee the number 1
pick, the number 1 pick, or win a game and risk having that overall number 1
That's
pick?
a great question,
It's
and I'm
tough.
getting that win.
See, so am I. And I did not think I thought you were going to go very pragmatic there,
Well,
Jason.
in general, I am pragmatic. I'm going to lose to get better picks. But there's something about history and
not
wanting
being-
my name not in it as a loser.
Yeah, there is. And there's something else, too. Even the Cardinals winning that game against Seattle hurts their division mates, but doesn't help their draft position. You have a lot of implications like this. And it's like, I think about how coaches are evaluated. Coaches, your win-loss record,
Here's
the way you
perfect-
perform, like it impacts you being kept as a coach next year.
Here is the perfect way to get Mike on board here. Mike, in our league of record, last place gets watered 12 times and then drafts wet. If you are out of the playoffs and you've got a bad team, where would be your perfect spot to finish in our league? Would you want that first pick?
In our league,
Yeah.
you can get the first pick without being wet, technically, in our league.
In the situation where it was if you got
So you're
wet
saying
at
if
the
I'm
last
wet,
spot,
I get the first pick, but or I could be dry and have the second pick.
right.
Well, yeah, I would take the second pick, but
that's
but-
kind of the same
but
situation.
the owners at the NFL draft don't have to draft wet.
Well, that's
Not yet.
My point.
I'm working on it.
My point is not an apples to apples comparison. There is a
Cost.
thing that says I'd rather just have a smidge less value so
Than
that
be
I don't.
embarrassed.
Yeah. So that I don't
Or
have,
you're the Detroit Lions, who are now in the playoffs. Remember when they went winless?
Yeah, but I also remember them as the winless team.
They're
Right.
in the playoffs now,
And they're ashamed for it.
they're in the playoffs right now.
the coach.
They're going to get beat.
Maybe, but they're in the playoffs.
No, you're right. All right. The only news that I want to mention about tonight's game is that Darius Slay has not practiced and is not expected to play, which means good things for wide receivers on the Dallas side of the ball. This is my almost upset of the week. The game means more to me. It means more to the Lions.
means more to me than the Cowboys.
Well, yeah, I messed that up. So the Lions, I think, can win this game, make it a close game. So I'm excited for that. We're done on this show. We'll talk waivers. We'll get you ready for Week 17. Very excited. Hopefully you had a great holiday. Thanks for tuning in. And thank you to everybody that leaves us reviews on iTunes. Really appreciate that. The support that you can give us just with a free review on iTunes
Helps the show out.
helps the show out.
Go
So,
to fantasyjocks.com and get those trophies. The code is footballers.
yeah.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.